Well, I'm really excited to be to have this conversation with you. You are Scott Cook. You are my father-in-law's next door neighbor growing up, and you were a member of the 73 state championship team.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure I have all my facts and all my ducks in
Yeah.
a row.
Next door to the neighbor to Stan Newcomb.
Yeah.
My,
What was he like growing up as a kid? Like, at what point did you guys become next door neighbors? Were you like 3 or 4?
he lived on the east. Okay, I was on kind of the west side of town, and he lived on the east side. But around the fifth grade, they moved right next door to us, and right away, I mean, gosh, I think the first day they moved there, he was over. We started hanging out and doing stuff, and I figured then that he was like me. He loved sports, but he was
Yeah,
more active about getting things going. I was kind of passive. I wanted to do it, but I needed somebody to prod me.
I hear you. That
You
makes
know,
sense. Hey, I'm kind of the same way. If there's a game going on, I'd join, but I wasn't
yeah.
going to be the one to organize it.
Uh,
Oh, that's great. So, was there any sport that you wouldn't play? Was there
so I
any?
wouldn't play.
Yeah, was there anything that you two wouldn't?
Yeah, wrestling. I I went out my freshman year. I didn't care much for it. Uh, one my junior year, the coach tried to get me to practice with the team until the matches, and then if I decided to wrestle, during the season, but I didn't want to. I just something about wrestling. I think here's what the deal was. I found out later I had asthma,
Oh, wow.
and wrestling is a grueling sport when you can't breathe that well, and I'd run out of gas really quick. So I think that was it just killed me.
And did you play football all 4 years in high school?
I did my junior year.
Well, why didn't you play your junior year? That would have been the 72 team.
Is this being recorded right now?
Yeah, it's being recorded.
Well,
What's your politically correct way?
I had some kind of issues with the coach
Oh, okay.
with the way he treated the guy we talked about that passed away,
Yeah.
and
Bill
there's
Hammond?
another guy. This is my sophomore year. I was picking up on the way our coach was treating these two players that were really good athletes, but they needed to be prodded a little bit.
Yeah.
And he would grab their helmets and call them
Mm.
foul names and really put them down. And he wasn't so bad with me, but he he had a way of kind of intimidating everybody in a
Okay.
way. And
That's
so my
interesting.
junior year, I didn't go out, and he didn't like that. The first day of practice, first day when everybody's coming in to turn themselves in for practice and stuff, I wasn't there, and he had my neighbor come on his motorcycle and take me to talk to him, and he let me have it. I think
Yeah.
he thought he could talk me into playing, and uh, I didn't play, and I
So
regretted it ever since.
really,
Uh, my senior year, that didn't make up for it winning the championship. It kind of did in a way, but I'll never have that year back to see what I could have done. I was supposed to be the starting center
oh,
then.
yeah.
We had really good players on both sides of the the senior class and then the junior class, and they should have won state that year.
Yeah, everybody says that the 72 team was better than the 73 team.
Yeah.
Everybody
Well,
I've
you know what
talked to.
happened? We played a team, Lillis in Kansas City, and it rained just uncontrollably, and we fumbled. We were a running team and stuff, and
Yeah.
we fumbled like 6 times, and then they beat us by like a couple points or whatever. And back then, if you weren't undefeated in our classification, you weren't going to make the playoffs. We were probably the best team in the state then. Of course, I didn't play, so I can't say we. You know,
Well, I almost
but
wonder if I jokingly wonder if you not being on the team for the 72 meant that that's why they were better, but I well, that's interesting. I didn't know that you had missed that. Yeah, well, for one, I like that you were standing up for what you thought was right, but
Yeah.
But I also understand looking back on it, kicking yourself, wishing that you had been there.
Yeah.
I what would you say to a high school kid now, knowing that you had that? If there's a high school kid now that's contemplating, do I or don't I? Should I be, should I get involved or not be involved? If a kid's on the
You
fence, what
mean,
would you say to him now? Like a kid nowadays, what would you say to him to try and
what would I
encourage?
say to him about going out for
Yeah,
football?
yeah, not or just whatever activity that they're going to do. Like even if it's like math club and they don't know if they should join or not.
Well, I mean, you probably would have to have somewhat of an interest in whatever you're wanting to do. You better, like, these kids that come out for football and they don't really, they just do it and then they never come back. But have an interest in whatever you're going to do and give it your best shot. Uh, if you're gonna, even if you'd only make it 1 year or whatever, again, once you join in that activity, stay with it at least to complete it and see, because maybe during the year it's going to change your mind as you go through the year and
Oh, that reminds me. When I was a young kid, I went to summer camp, and the like second day I was there, I called my mom to come get me. I was like, I don't like it. Come get me. I'm ready to quit. She said, no,
yeah,
just stick through it. You started it. You need to finish. So fine, whatever. And by the end of that session, I had already signed up for another one because I loved it so much.
uh-huh,
So you never know. Once you start something, there's something really very valuable in finishing at least once you start it.
yeah,
Giving
yeah,
up halfway through it, I feel like stunts your ability to appreciate what it is that you're working on.
right,
That's interesting. So you grew up, so from fifth grade through high school, you grew up next door to Stan, right?
yeah.
Do you have any stories about his parents, Dale and Joanne? Do you have any stories about them that you can remember?
About who?
About Dale and Joanne, Stan's mom and
Oh,
dad.
your grandpa, your
Yeah, well,
grandma.
yeah, the in-laws, yeah.
Um, oh, I can remember something I thought was really always funny is Dale. He never drank when we were growing up, and he was always kind of quiet. Me and him didn't talk a whole lot, but I can remember a couple times where the Hick, not the Hicks, but the Missouri people come over and yeehaw, and they had alcohol and he was drinking, and I never saw him talk so much and laughing so much.
Oh,
It just
his
cracked me
family.
up.
Yeah.
And Joanne, I mean, she was just so good. I had the flu really bad one year when I was working, when I was growing up,
Yeah.
and she always checked on me. She always called me when I was sick. She knew when I was sick and called me and check on me. And I was having diarrhea,
Sure.
and which kind of got dehydrated and got the chills and everything. And next thing I know, she's coming by my house with Gatorade and some kind of medication. And I would swear I was about ready to call the ambulance
Wow.
because I couldn't quit shaking. And I swear within an hour I was feeling better.
It's awesome.
Uh,
So she was there
I
for
should
you,
have
huh?
turned that off.
I can't hear anything.
Okay.
So she was always there for you, huh?
Yeah, she always was. That's just one example. I mean, she was always real talkative, friendly.
Yeah.
She'd take more time probably than any of my other friends' moms, to talk and she, she's really so good natured.
Yeah.
I love her. I mean, I loved her,
Sure.
and you know what I mean. Just
Yeah, of
she
course.
was so kind.
I mean, you were saying that she was almost like a second mom to you.
Yeah,
Now,
I told her that.
yeah, I
And
bet
she,
that
she
made her
she would
day.
come back at me with that sometimes. Like if I would tease her or something, she'd say, "Don't you forget, I'm your second mom."
Yeah,
You
that
know.
sounds about right. My grandparents all died by the time I was in my early 20s. And so after I married Katie, she she was my grandma, and so she was
Yeah.
she was that person for me. So I
Uh,
think you and I have a similar experience in, adopting her as, a mom or a grandmom. And you and I have never spoken before yesterday, which I think is
right.
which I think is so fascinating, is that we have, you know, I don't want to say similar stories, but we have so much in common, and
Yeah,
never
that
even
sounds like it.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I have a beard that I had to start. Well, because I always shaved pretty much with a razor
Sure.
and everything, but I was in the hospital for a while, a year or so ago, and they put me on my heart. I had AFib and stuff, so they put me on blood thinners and stuff. So I like can't straight shave. It feels so good not to have to shave anyway. And electric razor irritates my skin, so this is the way to go, I thought.
Well, you got a little while to catch up here now.
I just trimmed this. I just trimmed this not too long ago. Just 1 second.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I like it.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, you're okay. So, what last night when I was talking to Katie, I said, I get to talk to Scott Cook
I'll turn
tomorrow.
this up.
Yeah.
Just a moment. My wife's she's
Yeah,
here. She's
no,
gonna turn this
please.
up.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, I can hear you better already.
All right, that's good. Well,
Okay.
I was telling Katie that I get to talk to you tomorrow, well, today. And
Yeah.
I said, did you know Scott Cook grew up next door to your dad? And she goes, well, yeah, of course. And I didn't say, like, without missing a beat, she goes, oh, and I'm sure grandma cooked him cheeseburgers for his birthday.
She heard the stories from Stan, maybe, or from
I'm sure
grandma.
grandma could cook cheeseburgers now.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And
they
she,
were good old greasy burgers. Oh, so with a lot of cheese.
and she would put the
Cheese
bun
was
on top.
yeah, bun.
Yeah. I mean, she would steam that thing. It was delicious.
What wasn't it a crispy bun or
No. Well, from
I
my experience, now I remember she would cook the cheeseburgers and then put the bun right on top, and then that bun would steam up right at the end.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, it's been a
So good.
while. They're so good, yeah.
And the other thing she could cook fried chicken better than KFC, and it was
Yeah.
amazing. Do you ever remember any of
I
the meals?
I didn't have so much fried chicken, but she used to make pizza a lot too.
Really?
And that was pretty good. I don't know if it was back then. I mean, it had to have been homemade. She got the
Yeah.
dough going and all the hamburger on it and stuff.
Yeah. Oh man. She would always take good care of us as far as that
Yeah.
goes.
She knew who she liked and the family and otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Now you're talking about grandpa being real shy and quiet, and she was definitely the social
She
one for those two.
butterfly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Between Dale and Joanne. Joanne was the one who wanted to get out and about, and
Yeah.
after she passed on, grandpa lived another 5 or 6 years, and he only went out for one social outing. He went to the Silver Sneakers and said, nope, that's it. And he turned just
Oh,
went
really?
back home. Yeah. He didn't want to
Huh.
get out anymore after that. So
He didn't like had to get his groceries and food.
I mean, really, besides beans and cornbread, I don't think he ate anything else.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He would.
Yeah.
He probably went to the Moon's IGA. That's
Yeah.
when that grocery store was still around. He'd go there.
Yeah. I was talking though about how he was shy when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Later, and as I got to be more of an adult, I'd see him and we'd just talk away. So
Really?
and he felt pretty comfortable with me, and I felt comfortable with him, and
What
he
kind
was
of
my buddy.
stories would he tell you? What kind of stories did he tell you?
Well, I don't know if we ever really got that far. A lot of times I'd see him in his car at
Uh,
the gas station or something, and I'd just say a few, good to see you and stuff. Try to talk a little bit, but not too much.
That's fair.
Then I had to go.
After high school, did you ever work on the railroad at all?
No, no, I worked at the state hospital
Okay.
for
Yeah.
44 years.
Oh, so that was it. That's all you needed, huh? And then
Yeah.
you just now, like in the last 4 or 5 years, left Osawatomie and went up to
Yeah.
Shawnee, right?
Probably 4 years ago,
Wow.
I think.
So what for somebody like me who's been here for 7 years, still relatively new, or anybody that's new to Osawatomie, what would you say makes this town a special place to be and a special place to live?
Well, I don't, they've had some really hard times with places closing down, the Pizza Hut, and uh, I don't think the Sonic does that well there. I don't know. They had a McDonald's years ago that they couldn't make it. They don't have a lot of businesses stuff going out, flea markets and secondhand stores and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of the history, I think, of the town. It goes back to John Brown, and I think there's a lot of interesting things that they can come up with from the early years, and I think up until about the 70s or so. After that, I think it started fizzling out.
Well, see, I see that's kind of what I would agree with you. I was talking to Grady Atwater about like the beginning, the origins of Osawatomie and the type of people that would move here. And
Yeah,
it just seems like that you have to have a resiliency in order to live here. There has to be some,
yes,
you know what I mean? And the railroad left in the 80s, really in
yeah.
the 80s, and population didn't decrease at all. And then
And
after the flood in 2007, still the same population as it was beforehand. It just kind of,
yeah,
the money might not be there. There's not a lot of money rolling in, but businesses, but the people are still here, right? And so there's still
yeah,
there's a line of resiliency with the people that are here and the families that have stayed.
yeah. There's a lot of at the state hospital. They had a minimum security prison
Really.
a number of years ago for about maybe 15, 20 years. And they had drug people in there, that were in prison.
Yeah.
And then anyway, their wives would move to Osawatomie and get apartments there or whatever, or homes. And then when these guys would get out, they'd live there. And that's what a lot of the people have come from the prisons. I don't know if you've ever noticed how many people are always getting busted for meth and drugs and stuff. And I swear that those are some of the families that came out of the prison system,
It's interesting.
But that's my take on it. I worked up there. I just saw the prison all the time. And
Right.
I mean, I saw it. I drove by it.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting thing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I really haven't gotten into, what impact the state hospital has had on this town. I know people like you have worked there 40 something years, and Debbie and Donnie McReynolds. Donnie worked there for however long, and it was a great place to work for a lot of people for a long time. Clearly is not in the same as it was during its heyday. It seems like slowly but surely they're taking one building out at a time. So it's kind of an interesting avenue. I haven't really discovered much about it at all, even though it's a huge part of this town. What impact do you think, well, I guess at what point do you think the state hospital started slowly shutting down? It's not shut down now, but like it's in its heyday. It was a gorgeous place, and the buildings were beautiful. The landscaping was amazing.
Well, one time all the buildings were pretty well. When I was working there, when I started back in '76 and on always, about all the buildings had patients in all of them. These were some big buildings too. But then they slowly wanted to get patients out of the hospital and into the community.
Outpatient. Mm-hmm.
And
they treated them. It's budget costs, wasn't it? Because it costs so much to keep them in house overnight.
Oh yeah.
And so if they could treat them as medications got better, maybe they could treat them on an outpatient basis.
But they wound up with Adair as the last area with patients right now, and it's been that way for quite a while. And yeah, I've been gone there a few years though. When I left was when the COVID was coming on pretty strong, and I couldn't breathe with those masks on, so I was ready to quit anyway.
That makes sense. I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. So let's go back. I want to talk back about 73 team. Back at your time during your senior year, what made you decide to go back and play your senior year?
I knew it. I don't know. Something just told me to do it.
The Stevens boys.
Yeah, maybe there's a Stevens boy. She's probably right on that. I never thought so much about it. They changed the whole dynamic of our high school. You know, being in high school when they passed on.
What do you think? What dynamic changed? Like before the accident?
I know in our class, you know, that was behind them, we were behind their class where he was in. Rick passed away right his senior year, right around graduation time.
Yeah, and he was supposed to go to KU, right?
Yeah,
play ball there.
Yeah, and Stan and I, we went to the funeral, and it was just a heaviness, such a heaviness. That auditorium was packed there at I think it was the high school. Yeah, they had the funeral at the high school.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, this is going to get better, I think. But the whole summer, it was just a heaviness, you know, a darkness. Probably got a little better as we went, and then, you know, I think it just carried over into the season because I'm pretty sure sometimes my recollections are different than others, but it seemed like when we would win, we wouldn't be all jumpy and just celebrate, you know, having big celebrations and stuff. We were more businesslike, and it went that way the whole year. Seemed like.
Now, Stan always says, you know, act like you've been there. Is that something that he got from that team? That business that like, you know, just take care of business.
I don't remember hearing that.
Okay.
But he might have heard it from a different, you know, different coach at a different time or
when
something.
His time in Baldwin or whatever.
And maybe I don't remember either.
Right. Well, that's always a good point. Yeah. Now, did you guys? Is it true that you guys would box in the front yard? Would y'all have boxing matches?
No, we in the basement, my basement.
In your basement?
Be down in my basement, yeah, where I had all my weights and stuff, and kind of my exercise room, and we'd go down there and box. And
are you going 100%?
No, because Bill Hammond, I think you talked about him. He was a boxer actually. He went in the Navy and won some kind of I think he got to the championship match in the Navy and got beat by some guy there. But he seemed like he was in some other events of boxing. He was a fighter, that's for sure.
That's interesting.
But yeah, that was down in our basement, and like I told you one time I was boxing him or trying to, and next thing I know, my eyes all puffed up. You know, I thought I better quit. I'm not going to be able to see anymore.
That's too funny. That's hilarious. Yeah. Now, if I found out that there was an underground boxing thing going on with my students today, I'd put the nix on it. No fight.
Yeah, we tried to take it easy, but Bill, he was something. He was a good athlete all the way around.
Yeah,
tough.
Ike Brady was telling me a story about you know, I asked Ike Brady what was the glue or what was it that kept the team together, or what let you have the confidence to know that y'all were going to win that year. And Ike Brady said that it was Bill Hammond. Whenever he would make a mistake or something, or whenever, you know, the team had a bad play, and when you got back in the huddle, Bill Hammond would be the first one to say, "We're better than this. We're gonna do better. You know, pick up your blocks or watch your angles, whatever it might be." And Bill was always the vocal
He
Or
was the
safety?
coach.
Both.
He was the coach out there on the field,
Yeah.
pretty much. He would motivate people, and he wasn't a jerk about it. He was just matter of fact, and people picked up on that, did better.
And that's what a so he was just kind of like a natural leader then for you guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
really strong in the head, tough, just as tough as could be, you know. And when he would tackle somebody, there was a textbook tackle usually. He'd be in the open field, get that person and pick them up and drive them down, on their back.
Yeah.
And Derek was like that too.
Yeah.
He
No, I feel like from what I'm gathering, Bill was more of a vocal leader and Derek was more of a follow
Yeah.
me, I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah,
Derek
he
was
was
more,
he was so awesome the
yeah,
way he showed you by example.
right.
And we had a pretty good line. I don't know that I think about any running back could have run there, but he'd get more yards. And when you finish your block, you'd look down the field and see like 4 or 5 guys hanging on to him, and he's carrying them down the field every time practically. He was
That's
just
hilarious.
dragging people. He'd get about 10 to 15 yards about every carry.
Man, I could only imagine being around that particular group of characters. I'm starting to find, there's 23 or so of you guys, and each person had their own they played their own role on that team. And I'm starting to get the idea that nobody felt that they were better than anybody else or they were more important than anybody else. They just knew their role, they knew what they were supposed to do, and they leaned on each other.
Yeah.
Even though everybody knew Derek was the best, player.
I don't know that we really knew that.
Really?
I consider Chuck Markham up there too.
Really?
He was a big guy that was fast. Him and Bill and Derek were the really, really tough guys on the team. They all made all state,
Oh wow, I didn't know
and then the rest of us had to fight for all league.
that. Oh, that's great. Now, did you I'm trying to think about that particular team and some of those stories that I've heard. Like Doug Falscraft being just like a hammer. Pound for pound, he was one of the hardest hit
Yeah,
ever met.
I told him I went to the parade and sat next to him, at the
Yeah.
parade for John Jamboree. And I told him, you were really underrated in football. You were I looked at my scrapbook and I've seen you on so many tackles and different things, and he kind of was humble about it. He kind of downplayed it, but I said you really were one of the best in the team, and he said, "Well, I appreciate that."
Well, I one story I heard, I don't remember who was telling it. It said it was playing Shawnee Heights in the semifinal game. And it would like they were running down the field and just marching down. And if they scored, they win. And in the end zone, Doug gets an interception to seal
On
the
fourth
win.
down. Fourth down. Of course,
Yeah.
he didn't have to catch it. He could have just knocked it down, but he did the play. He got the play anyway. Yeah, we thought we had the game wrapped up because I think Ike scored a real long touchdown pass, and he was jiggling it like we didn't know if he was going to catch it from watching. It was way down the field that where he got the ball, and he was jiggling it, and he finally got it and went down. And I think there was only a minute left, and we thought we pretty well got this game, but Shawnee Heights went all the way down to about the 10-yard line. They
Wow.
went about 40 or 50 yards, and we put the hammer down then. They didn't get any yards, I don't think. They're at the 10, from what I remember. And then Doug got that interception. And,
I feel like that moment when you beat Shawnee Heights, like that was the state championship game. Like that was that's when you knew you won.
Yeah, they had a player that Tom Dinkle. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Shawnee Heights?
No.
He started all 4 years at KU as a defensive lineman, And then he played for the Cincinnati Bengals and played like he started there for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
He was, and then you had Derek on the other side. They ended up playing for the Raiders. So we didn't know we had two professional football players
Right.
there.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
You never know what you have. And then, coming from a small town like this, especially with Lynn Dickey just going to the NFL, and being Lynn Dickey, I'm sure that had to have been just crazy. Did everybody when you were in high school, we going through those 4 years, did you look up to Lynn Dickey like he was walking on water or what?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much because I went to his games. It was back in '66. I was only about 10 years old or 11 or whatever, but he was throwing these. He had a receiver that was really good, and he was fast, and they'd throw these long bombs and get big leads, on people. They were undefeated, and they just beat people 50-0 or 6 or whatever. They were pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I never heard much from him, but
I know that he's still around and living in Olathe.
yeah, he used to be on a radio show.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
that was a while back.
Yeah. For the Chiefs?
No, he played for.
For Green. I thought he was
This was
Green Bay.
this was after he was out of pro football.
Yeah, right.
Lynn Dickey. He was on Kansas City radio.
So like
Sports
610 Sports
radio
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I got you. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, like what an interesting, like what I'm finding, people from here, the people that I'm talking to that I've gotten a chance to meet, there's some pretty interesting stories. Some really fascinating stories.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Sam Brownback?
Yes.
Used to be the governor.
Yeah.
He was a senior when we were seniors. Our first game of the year was at Prairie View. And of course, you can smell the pigs, they're out there. The wind was blowing the right way. But he played for Prairie View, Sam
Really?
Brownback. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw him a few years ago for a 40-year thing for work when I made that long. And he said he knew about every name on the team, especially Derek and Bill and Chuck and them.
Right.
But
That's fascinating. Well, I was speaking to Annalee Billum recently. She was a mayor in the late 90s or something.
Yeah.
Well, her classmates, she keeps track of every single one of her classmates. She graduated Osawatomie in 1950. And she's 90 something now.
Wow.
Sharp as a tack. She's hilarious to talk to. She has a lot of information about the town or whatever. And I was talking to her and she goes, yeah, I was talking to this classmate yesterday, and that's Sam Brownback's mom.
She's alive too, huh?
Yeah. So Sam Brownback's mom graduated Osawatomie in 1950. Like, that's so weird. Like, that's crazy.
Wow.
The connections are unbelievable. They're
they come back around sometimes just for encouragement, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Small town,
yeah. If you want to hear a small town story, my mom on Facebook yesterday, living in Houston, Texas, she was on Facebook and she saw this guy said, my wife just got a job with the Houston Texans. She had worked with the Kansas City Royals for some amount of 20 years or whatever. And my mom just said, go Chiefs, just to mess with them a little bit. And the guy said, well, the Chiefs are my favorite team, and my mom bragging about me was like, well, my son lives in Osawatomie. He goes, my brother lives at Osawatomie. So just like as random as it could possibly get, why is Osawatomie connected to all sorts of random stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Because up here, you don't know anybody up here in the city.
Right. And there's this really fun paradox. If you live in, you live in the urban area like Shawnee Mission or wherever, your next door neighbors are, 5 feet away from you, but you don't know anything about them. And then if you live here in Osawatomie, out in the out in the country in Osawatomie, your neighbors are half a mile away from you, but you know everything about them.
Yeah.
So
Ain't that the truth? Yeah.
it's just an interesting
Check my
interesting
email,
paradox.
text.
I
Like-
remember
like
one
Clay.
thing Scott always talked about was how the town rallied around him and how many drove out to Ulysses.
Yeah, I want to
Did
hear
you-
about that.
Did you know too? We had the two. We had two playoff games in Osawatomie, Fort Scott, and then Shawnee Heights.
Right.
And from what I heard, there was like 4,000 or so people there. You could see people lining up around the track, around the football field, everywhere. I didn't know that, but that's what I heard. And
Yeah.
of course at Ulysses, there's just thousands of people there.
Oh, state
But,
championship game.
Yeah, and when I guess I don't know when we were coming back from Dodge City, we stayed overnight there after the game. We were coming back on John Brown Highway.
Yeah.
There were people lined up for miles with
Really?
signs and stuff supporting us and congratulating us.
Wow.
So
That gives me chills. That's kind of that's awesome that the town would come out and support you guys like that on your way back in.
yeah,
I was going through Grandpa's scrapbook, and there's a picture of Bob Pinnock and Bill Hammond standing at the bus when you guys first got back, and those two are just talking back and forth right as soon as you got off the bus. What was that like when you guys first got back? Was there a big pep rally or was it?
No, it was pretty low key. I remember the day we had a big pep rally in the auditorium the Monday after that, and it was I think everybody was kind of just pooped. I know coming back on the bus ride was really a long trip from Dodge City. It was about 9 hours or so, and getting off the bus, I remember how tired I was, and then I don't know. It was just kind of a weird deal. And then we had the pep rally the next day, and I think I was pepped out.
The whole would you like that's it. It's interesting to think now because we don't have a state championship team yet. Not to say that we couldn't. You never know, but I would imagine this town would show up. And if we had like a game in Wichita or something, 3 or 4 hours out, there'd be, caravans and buses and all sorts of stuff going out there.
Yeah, here's from Scott's. His mom saved all the articles.
That's
and
it.
So this shows the caravan, and this is the bus. Yeah,
that's the exact picture that Dale has in that Osawatomie scrapbook.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They were lined up and
my mother. What did you do? Oh, okay. My mother. She collected all the snippets out of the graphic, out of the local paper, of our football and everything that we went.
You made this one, Scott.
And
you're in that one with the trophy.
Here, hold it up.
Yeah, there. But
a little higher. Oh, that's all you guys on the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, everybody came out. Yeah, who was that one person that had that tiger sign? What were they thinking? There's like a Ulysses fan. I can't even say it.
Here you go. See, it's got that tiger fan, that sign.
Do you remember the story with that person?
No, I never did see that, I guess.
It was in the caravan too.
Yeah.
So
that's what
I don't know. I'll read the article. Maybe was the tiger some kind of was that Ulysses' mascot?
Yeah. They had one fan in the Osawatomie caravan and at the rally back in town for whatever reason.
Maybe somebody kidnapped that Ulysses fan and brought him to Osawatomie with their sign.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
it says
story
the
I'm gonna hear.
lone black and orange tiger sign.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I guess there's always a contrarian. There's always one.
yeah,
There's always
Yeah.
that one kid who has to do what everybody else has to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's funny.
Will you see if
I will. I will.
okay.
Yeah.
Were there any traditions back then that you would like to see again? Or that you like anything that you remember from your time in high school that you were like, man, that was so much fun. I wish they would still do that, or I hope they still do that. Are there any traditions back in the early 70s that you can remember?
I probably notice things like that more now than back then. I was just kind of oblivious to things. I just got by day, and I really I know we had the tradition with our coach. You know, he was a Hall of Fame high school coach,
Yeah, Bill Freeman.
Kansas Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
and I don't know, lost my train of thought.
No,
But
that's all right.
Talking about
He
Coach
won
Freeman?
5 more. He won 5 more in Lawrence, didn't he?
yeah, 5 championships. That was when they had the huge school. They didn't want to. Once they put it in 2 schools, they're still pretty good, but both of them are Free State and Lawrence. But yeah, he won a championship before he was at Osawatomie in the small classes, Lebo or some small 8-man or something like that.
Oh wow. Yeah, from what I've read, like he's a pretty impressive career.
Yeah, yeah,
He was a hard coach, Scott always said.
Yeah.
But after the Stevens boys that summer, the whole tone changed. I always thought that was a lot of what had to do with you going back out too. Was because, just everybody rallying, kind of in their honor, even,
We were
Right.
talking about that.
What Stan wanted me to ask you about running hills.
Oh, those were my favorite things to do. Matters on what hills he's talking about, because we had in the football field, we were down below the swimming pool.
Yeah, we're still
And
they still practice there.
And I think we ran up this weedy dirt hill and come back down. And then for track, I think we ran the hill over by the power plant. We ran up and down over there for track.
That's good for that's good for sledding in the snow. That's not good for running up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Hills.
So
after the thing is, after the hills, then we'd run sprints.
No.
So we weren't even done yet. And then we had to walk all the way. We were just dripping sweat, you know. We had a little water there, but for some reason I remember being so thirsty, walking up that big hill to the high school, and then just people were on the water fountain for like 5 minutes at a time. You know, it just it was so you know, that was in the heat part. It got cooler after that.
Stan said that there was always 1 or 2 of you guys that guaranteed would start puking. Were you one of those guys whenever it was time to go run the hills were you one of those guys that would start throwing up?
No, I don't.
You don't remember?
I never threw up. I was always in fairly good shape because I worked in the hay fields in the summer, you know, all through the summer, and got pretty good shape there. But I wore glasses back then, and I didn't wear them, you know, in practice. So I might have missed some things that happened but you would have heard it. You would have thought.
Yeah.
That just makes the coach happy when he hears that. You know.
Oh, that's funny. So I'm trying to figure out if the new coach, you should start getting boys to run up and down the hills after practice.
Yeah, hills are good.
Yeah.
Hills are good.
The greatest wide receiver in football history, famous for running hills. Jerry Rice would run these monstrous hills in San Francisco every year. Oh, yeah, he's famous for it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The stadium steps.
Oh, yeah, there's that like too. That. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you giving me your time today. Do you have any embarrassing stories about Stan?
Well, I just remember one time.
Remember, that's his son-in-law.
Yeah, no, I want the ammo. I need to know.
Yeah. Well, he's lost a lot of weight now, hasn't he?
He's on his way, yeah.
Yes. He wasn't really that big back then, but it seemed like he was bigger than most kids back in those days, and he wasn't even fat or nothing. He was pretty much muscle.
Yeah.
But and nowadays, you see these kids that are fat, really fat. But anyway, one time we went into some house and we were all sitting down, and he sits on this chair, and it broke. It went down, and everybody was just cracking up. It wasn't funny at all because he was probably embarrassed and everything.
Well, sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, man.
I just remember some of his sayings. Did he have the what were they? I can't believe you did that.
Oh, yeah.
He said that all the time back then. I can't believe you did that. I heard that a whole bunch of times. I can't believe I even remember it now. But he had some things that he repeated, that were pretty cool.
Yeah, he still does that to this day.
Does he?
Oh,
he stays with the routine, doesn't he?
He still tells me to rub dirt on it in like the weirdest time. Like it makes no sense, but
yeah,
rub some dirt on it. Move on. Like, okay, all right, thanks. just need to go get an oil change, rub some dirt on it. Like, all right.
Well,
he's awesome.
How's his health doing?
He's actually doing good. He's replacing a knee or two. I at some point soon. He's been retired now for a year. He wrote a book.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did a book of poetry.
Poetry.
Yeah. And his my wife did all of the illustrations for it. She's been painting. And so they got together and put this book together and put it on Amazon, and it's off and going. So yeah, he has a book of poetry out, which I think
can you get it at the bookstore?
No, you have to get it on Amazon.
On Amazon?
Yeah.
What's the name of it?
Someday You'll See.
Someday You'll See.
Yeah, I'll send you a text message with it. So you
by Stan Newcomb?
Yeah.
By Stan, okay. Yeah. Not Stanley.
No.
He was Stanley a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here he would have gone by Stanley. I don't remember somebody else to say. Was that you that was telling me yesterday that names changed from high school to adult life? Yeah.
Well, I had a cousin that went from Stanley to Stan, and he'd let you hear about it. He was kind of a rude guy, and hey, Stan, how you doing? Or Stanley, how you doing? Stan. He never smiled or ever did anything like no fun.
Oh no. Yeah, some people need to just have an infusion of joy.
Yeah,
a little joy in their life,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we could all use a little fun.
Yeah, I was with your father-in-law through school, and then for a couple of years after that, kind of until I think we both got married, and then kind of hadn't seen much of each other. But I used to go down to Baldwin, the parties there, and I went to the Grateful Dead with them and Eagles, and we went to concerts in Kansas City, and
cool.
Did a lot of stuff. Football games.
Were you friends with him whenever the fraternity house in Baldwin burned down?
I don't think so. Okay. Was he there then?
Yeah, he was in the house when it happened.
Oh.
Yeah. I,
Yeah, I don't.
that's an
That's
unbelievably sad story. That
so
was
his apartment got burnt where he was at.
he was in the frat house. Yeah, the whole house
Whole
went.
house went down.
Yeah, Scott,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have him on as a podcast in a little bit, probably in the
Yeah.
next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure
A
that
little bit.
yeah, a little bit. Well, he's on vacation now with Debbie and Donnie. They're off at some lake enjoying themselves. So I'm interested to hear what you would think about some of the stories that he has to share.
Okay.
Yeah, he talks.
Because we it's been many years, and we see things probably because I've talked to so many people about things I remembered from school
Yeah,
and football, and they didn't remember it, or I didn't remember what they said.
yeah.
And people would be telling me things I did that I don't even remember doing, you know. But anyway,
Well, beer was legal for 18-year-olds back then.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
go ahead.
Nothing. I was just saying he used to come down to Osawatomie and we'd hang out. I don't remember. It was maybe while he was still in college or towards the end of it. At first, I was going down there to different stuff, and then I think he was starting to come up to Osawatomie and hanging out. And then we got married, and uh, look what happened. I mean, had two girls, right?
Yeah, 2 daughters.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I married the older.
I got to thinking about how you said you maybe had seen me a couple times,
Yeah,
probably at the funerals for Grandpa and Grandma.
that might have been. Yeah, I definitely. Did you go to their 50th wedding anniversary at the Elks Lodge?
I
Do you
think I
remember that?
did. I
That was my first time ever in Osawatomie.
Did they give out the invitations on that, or I'm pretty sure I did.
I don't know, but there was a lot of people there. And Stan's cousin was playing in the band. Do
Oh,
you
okay.
remember that?
No, maybe I didn't go to that. I don't know. Uh, Maybe they had enough people already where they couldn't get, you know,
I have no idea.
a lot of.
I just that was my first time ever coming to Osawatomie.
Poor guy.
And
Never get that.
now I live here.
Are you getting used to it yet?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know. I grew up in Houston, right? There's like when I was there was 4.5 million people in Houston. It was
Yeah.
the urban jungle for sure. And I grew up in a suburb of it. And so I'm just used to lots and lots of people in a metropolitan area. And then I left there and was in Kansas City pretty much the rest of my life until about 7 years ago. We moved here with when Grandpa passed, we took over the house, and it's just kind of slow. It's so slow here, and just relaxed. There's no stresses you're not hurried.
Yeah.
You're not always trying to go, and I don't have to worry about how much traffic on Shawnee Mission Parkway at a certain time of day. I don't have to worry about any of that at all.
Have you ever driven down Kelly Street? So it's on the east side of Osawatomie to the south. And anyway, where there's a Chinese place still going.
Yeah.
You go down that road, not the gravel road or whatever, but you go down that one, and then the little zag, and then our house was the kind of the last one to the right before you have to make a turn.
Okay.
And my grandparents grew up or lived there, and I used to spend a lot of time there. And then we got the house when we grew up, or when we needed a place to go to, and then we got the house there. They were passed away a long time, and we fixed it up. It flooded. We had to fix it up again. We had to do 2 remodeling jobs on it,
Oh
and
man.
it was pretty nice when we sold it. But my daughter, she has like 5 kids right now, and another one on the way. So we moved up here to Shawnee, where she's at, to help out. And
Yeah.
plus, I was retired. My wife works at Garmin. She's only has a short drive. So
Yes.
anyway, but
She's closer to work and you're closer to the kids.
yeah,
So
I'll be taking them to school. Well,
yeah.
the kids start next week.
Yeah, you're on grandpa duty now.
Yeah, I kind of missed it this summer. I really had some time. I didn't know what I was going to do. And it was so hot there for a while, I couldn't go out walking or anything.
Right. Yeah, we're stuck in this heat dome.
Yeah, well, it's
So
easing up a little bit, I think.
yeah.
Oh,
We got the attic fan going last night, so that was nice.
yeah.
Yeah. I love the attic fan. There's
Yeah, yeah.
nothing better than an attic fan on a crisp night.
I have the fan over the bed. Is that, I don't know, attic fan, is that like ours is, just like a
Yeah, I mean
up above, and it
it's
goes,
huge and it sucks air in through the windows and the doors.
oh, it brings it in, and
Yeah.
yeah, it brings
Yeah.
that nice air in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't live in a house without one now.
Yeah.
It's so nice. So
We
nice.
didn't have air conditioning for many years, probably till I was about 30 or 40.
Yeah.
In our house, we just do whatever we could, and I think it helped me to kind of stay in shape a little bit.
Well, I
Get
mean, you
used
were
to
used to baling hay in the summers when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if we should figure out a way, because all you guys talk about is baling hay in the summers and throwing hay, and how Derek
Yeah.
would wear like weights on his legs, and like
Yeah.
like that. If something's gonna toughen you up, that's gonna toughen you up. You're gonna be
Yeah.
ready. You're gonna be ready for the season after a summer of that.
Yeah.
I,
Pretty much.
we need to get our kids. We need to get our kids a big old farm and just make them bale hay all summer. Instead of
Yeah.
playing video games. Let's get them out there. I'm
I
sure
don't think
somebody would love to have a football team volunteer their hours over the summer to come and bale hay.
Yeah. I got pretty good at it. I started in the 5th grade and through high school, and then got pretty good at it. I was throwing them bales up there like it's kind of like the shot put to me.
Yeah.
I threw the shot put. It was kind of helpful in another way.
Well,
So
yeah, Stan still owns the 8th grade record, which is
does
silly.
he?
Yeah, it's still in the gym there.
Yeah.
Now I keep thinking, if you had the 8th grade record, why couldn't you get the high school record?
We had 3. Well, one of Rick Stevens was like a champ in shot put. Bill was good, and then me, and then Stan, and I got 3rd in the state my senior year in the shot put. But I threw all through the summer. Stan threw with me too.
Good job.
And we kind of plateaued there for a while, it seemed like. And then what I did was I lifted weights all the time. And
Yeah.
on my upper body, it would tighten you to where you didn't have that snap. In my senior year, I just said, heck with it. I'm not lifting weights during this track season. And I was throwing like about a foot further every week.
Wow.
Because my arms were loose, and I'm thinking, why didn't I ever think of that before? And of course our coach, he wasn't aware of. I think he thought he knew everything, but he was always trying to show us how to throw and filming us. And whatever methods he had us throw, you could throw worse than what you did before. So go back to what you had.
That makes me wonder. There's like, if they had me go out and try and coach one of these sports, I can't coach sports if I tried, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be on YouTube every night going, how do I coach football, or how do I coach, like, I'm just trying to teach myself how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd be very good. And I'm thinking, yeah, I would probably be that coach that's like, oh, we're gonna try this technique. And it's
Yeah.
no, just go back to what you were doing before.
Well, we're meant to do what we're doing at the moment, right? You're doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing, which is nothing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go work out at Planet Fitness later on tonight, but that'll make my evening.
Good job. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for chatting with me and sharing some of those stories and sharing some of your time with me. And I really look forward to seeing you at the homecoming game for the 50th. You're going to be there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Ah, good.
Yeah. Hey, can I just tell you one other thing
Please,
that
yes,
showed,
absolutely.
we had about all shutouts during the season.
Yeah.
We had like 9 or so. And this one game against Tonganoxie, we were, we were going to win. It was towards the end of the game, and our B team was in there. They were on the goal line ready to score. And all they needed to do was hand off and whatever. That our quarterback throws a pass to the fastest guy on Tonganoxie. And he's running down the field. Where our team's on the sideline there. And as he's running, I can remember it was so quiet in the stadium that you could hear his feet pit pat going by, and everybody started throwing their helmets down and cussing, and that we lost that shutout.
Yeah.
That's something that always stuck in my mind.
You wanted to be you didn't want to win. You wanted to dominate.
Shutouts. We wanted
Yeah.
shutouts.
And I also like all the stories about how you walk into a stadium like Paola, right? You walked into Paola and they laugh at you.
Yeah, all
They're
these
giggling because there's
stadiums.
only 24 of you.
Even the teams that weren't that good, they'd laugh at us because they had a lot more players, and yeah, they would laugh at us. And I don't know, it was just the funny stuff that went on.
Yeah. Man, that's really interesting. That's
But
super interesting.
yeah, my
Yeah,
mom, she would always tell me stuff like that, about the laughing and everything, because I didn't know, I didn't
right.
hear it,
Right.
and she kind of clued me in on things that I missed, and those were the days.
Right.
I
Exactly.
mean, after that all passed and went on, you're happy about it. But at the time, it was just kind of tough during the year, and I think it was meant to be. I
Well,
think we
sure.
all learned it. We all learned a lesson in
Yeah.
how fragile that life can be. Went
Yeah.
on.
When the boys died, I'm sure that everything had to get into focus after that.
Yeah, yeah,
The 72 team, losing in a mud game.
yeah,
And then, of course, you weren't on that team, but having the boys pass just put everything back into focus. And it seems like it did so with the coaches too.
yeah.
What big lesson did you learn? Oh, you know what? I do this thing with my students every week where I ask them for a rose, a thorn, and a seed. And so I want to ask you about a rose and a thorn and a seed from your time on the 73 team. What was the best thing that happened, the worst thing that happened, and what did you learn from being on that team? So what was the best thing, the worst thing, and what's something that you learned from being on the 73 team?
Well, the best thing that happened was the relationship that all of us got from each other and the closeness. We were like brothers.
Oh, I love it.
That was that. The worst was trivial things like I said, losing we had another shutout. We probably could have had another game too, but things like that. I think we had a lot of negative influences that were kind of out of the picture that year. So I think um, the worst, yeah. And what was the other one?
What's something that you learned? What's your big takeaway from that year?
Something that you learned is to me, go back. Don't be a quitter. Go back. And this is all my last year that I'll have it ever to work out. I don't know. I just something clicked where I needed to go back. And I don't know. I just learned, like I say, the fragility of life.
Yeah.
And that we all need to not take it for granted.
Was there anything that the coaches in particular, I know that it was difficult because I feel like Ike Brady didn't play that junior year either, did it? Like maybe even his sophomore year. But I feel like, I don't know.
1 year he didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it was for the same reasons or different, whatever. But Ike Brady tells a story about how he was walking down the hall, kind of just, hemming and hawing to himself, and Coach Freeman pulled him aside, and Coach Freeman said, "You're not a victim." And, it really hit him. And, you take accountability for being who you are and your actions. And, that hit Ike Brady, and he carried that with him ever since then. Was there a moment or a lesson that you learned from one of the coaches that, sticks out to you that you've carried with you this time?
Well, our head coach, you couldn't talk about the other coaches. They didn't compare to the head coach. He was so strong-willed, and even though I talked, about my issues with him and everything.
Yeah.
He was a go-getter. He was going to get things done. I mean, he did wrestling, track, football, and he pushed. He kind of thought he knew how to push people. Like I think he thought that the meanness, was going to push people in the right way. But I tell you, one thing that I always remember about him was at halftime. Sometimes we'd be on the bus away in our locker room at half at home.
Yeah.
And anyway, he'd be in there, and no matter what the score was, all of a sudden he'd be real quiet, and everybody was real quiet, just like for a while, And next thing you know, boom, he hits the chalkboard and starts yelling at the top of his lungs about. He did that every time, and we never were ready for it. I swear, we never were ready for it. I think I had panic attacks every time there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, if it worked that one time, it's got to work every time, right?
He figured it worked every time because he kept doing it.
I mean, it's hard to argue with his success, with his track record, right? I mean,
yeah,
he got the most out of his players, seemingly year in and year out. I mean, obviously it takes talent, right? There's no substitute for talent, but talent is worthless without, hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
And hard work, it is tough to get a teenager to do their absolute best. So for some, some of it might have worked, but I almost wonder, through your experience, I almost wonder if there was a lesson that he learned, after the Stevens boys, if he found that, maybe not going as hard, maybe finding that balance, right?
I always said, and I never really did make that clear with you, that our senior year, he wasn't quite as vocal, or he'd settled down a bit, and somebody else still did the chalkboard thing.
Right. Right.
Did that.
The chalkboard move works. You got to stick with it.
Yeah.
That's too funny. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Scott. I hope you have just a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in September. I really look forward to it. It's going to be a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, I honestly, I feel like I'm a part of the team. I wasn't even born. But I like, after talking to you guys and hearing all the stories, I'm kind of starting to see some patterns and hearing some of the same stories. I'm just, well, I can't wait to meet, be around everybody. And Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember when that happened. Yeah. I
We're
wasn't
all,
even born.
yeah. When we get together, we're always, well, most of us are glad to see each other. There's one or two that maybe, I don't know, sticks or what, think they're better than others, but I don't know.
You're not going to make everybody happy with the whole group.
There's some people I haven't ever talked to since high school that I've been with in person, but
Yeah,
didn't seem to. Anyway,
that's interesting. Well, we'll explore all that at homecoming.
Okay.
All right. Thank
This
you
talk
so much,
isn't
Scott.
over.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate you joining me, and I
No
look forward to
problem.
seeing you. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. See you. Bye.